Evening, folks. Thursday, 9 o'clock, actually here on time-ish for once after compared to last week. And this is myself and Ronan, and this is the Premier League show. Good evening. Absolutely, yeah. So, welcome to the show. This is the week 4. I've lost count already. It's not a good sign, is it? So, how you
It
been,
is a
Ronan?
week of the calendar.
There's a week of the calendar where football has been played. That's about all we can tell you right now. So how you been?
I've been good.
Been avidly watching the transfer lines and watching the transfer market up and down for the last week.
The last weekend's games did not help my blood pressure as a United fan.
Who you weren't exactly. I mean, I like you kind of kept the drama alive by giving them a 2-goal lead. It was quite nice. I'm not sure you guys thought it was quite nice, was it, as Man United fans? I mean,
I predicted a 3-1, and I thought like it was going to be a comfortable 3-0 that eventually turns into a 3-1.
mm-hmm.
It didn't turn out that way, and the defense did not get that script, and then it suddenly became 2-0 down in 4 minutes.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting start. When I saw the headlines and the sort of like the latest score, I looked at it and I was like, really? It was one of those moments where you go, it's somebody having a wind up. There's that can't
It's
be.
just after that, then United actually started playing football.
Yeah, as I said, it was nice. Yeah,
Mm.
at home, it was nice to give them a 2-goal head start to make the game interesting for the fans.
I feel like we just wanted to test our unbeaten record at home. Just like we'll
give
see
it
if
a
it
real
actually
push.
works.
So maybe that was it. Maybe that was Ten Hag's sort of idea. So give them a 2-goal head start and see how you can respond to it. But it certainly was an interesting one. I certainly didn't see that being as tight as you say. I envisioned that being a quite easy home win for United. But yeah, Forest came to play and really gave you a shake up in the early stages of that game.
And then you had help from a red card, which brings into that also brought into a question of it's a matter of opinion of whether people think Bruno would get to get a shot off before the other defender got. It's a matter of opinion in that moment. If you could prove that Bruno wouldn't get to that ball before the defender, it's hard to.
It was hard. It was a tricky one, wasn't it? But it's like, again, it matters of opinion, which is where the I suppose as fans, that's where it gets really quite annoying or inconsistent, I suppose, because
once the ref makes the decision, VAR is not going to turn it because it's again opinions. It's kind of like
it's like, well, in my opinion, he was going to get the ball, and therefore it was going to be a goal scoring opportunity, and therefore blah blah blah. And it's like, well, how do you argue that? There's no black and white there. As soon as he says, in his opinion, and I think it's the same with the Virgil red card. The opinion was he was going on, and the ball would roll across him, and therefore he would be in a goal scoring opportunity. And therefore it's a red card. And it's like, well, did he get the ball? Yes, he got the ball, but he kind of got the ball player and everything in one go. So,
it's
the
a
red
matter
card,
of people's interpretation of like this whole thing because it comes out because VAR can't really say no, you're wrong because there's no evidence to. Because with him being tackled, you can't have like what if he did take an extra step? He might have got there.
What if it came across him and he completely towed it and his first touch was terrible and Allison just picked it up and etc. But it was a tricky one. It's a very tricky one in terms
of. And then you had the pen decision, which yes, Rashford made more of it than what it was. It is a pen, but it's a soft one. Like Rashford made it look more than what it was.
Certainly, and as we mentioned we mentioned it with the sort of our new number 8 guy. He made sure that he ensured that the referee was aware there was contact in the game against Bournemouth. I think Rashford did the same, but maybe a little more
Yeah, there was
ensuring
contact for the knee onto
on the
his.
upper thigh, gentle
Yeah.
sort of, and it looked like he might have been going down or going for that contact before the contact was there. That I
Hmm.
think that was the thing with the
I think
Rashford one.
I think he made the contact happen. Like he was
Yeah,
in a
I
position
think
that forced
I'm
it.
not sure not sure that the defender initiated the contact. I suppose but there was definitely contact. So again, letter of the law, it's a penalty, but it did look. It's not one of those ones that
There
as a
was
man
another
of your
incident where the new yellow card rule got everyone on the. There was like yellow cards for everyone.
everybody. It was just like the referees were just giving cards out willy nilly, which was interesting because it seemed like, we'll go to the, briefly talk on the Liverpool game now. We just mentioned the Virgil van Dijk, but he did seem to be quite free and easy with his cards early on in that game, and then suddenly put them away for a long period of time, especially if the players were wearing black and white. There seemed to be not many, and there were a lot of sort of fouls coming back the other way. And he did eventually start booking some Newcastle players in the second half, but it seemed like a bit like, I don't know if the game
Mm.
got a little bit away from him in that early stages where
Whereas the United game, there was just like yellow cards like every 2 seconds
you
to
could have a
get
card, you have a card, you have a card. Yeah.
for like people like complaining or just small tackles. There was one for Rashford. The new kick the ball away. You get a yellow card even if you just kick it
If
slightly.
slightly, just nudge it away and stuff like that. Yeah. And again, that comes down to the consistency thing,
And the whole thing for like time wasting. How much is time wasting? Like a goalkeeper just. Onana got booked for time wasting when Onana was waiting for. There was a second ball on the pitch that he was waiting for it to be kicked out.
Yeah, that's
And the
crazy.
ref booked
Yeah.
him for time wasting, and he's pointing it out like, but there's a
There's an
ball on the right there.
can't actually kick the ball. I can't go live here because there's an extra ball on, but somehow that's still time wasting. Yeah, and it's and I think who else got one? I saw time wasting happened in. I think the Arsenal game also was a time wasting one. I mean, they're coming out thick and fast, aren't they, at the moment? And I think they'll get there, but
You're gonna get more suspensions, and I know UEFA with the new added on time, like in the United game, there was 12 minutes added on.
that's a lot. And you think of that and you think, oh, who got injured? What was bad? And you just like there wasn't any long stoppages or anything like that. It was just that sort of new, we'll add everything on of all of this news and noise. So yeah, I mean, it's working out. It's getting there. It's making the games more enjoyable right to the last minute.
Although UEFA has like completely dismissed.
UEFA have just turned around and gone, we ain't doing that. It's
They
like,
said we're not adding that absurd time rule.
which is quite weird because it was a FIFA rule from the World Cup that we've introduced and taken from the World Cup into our league, but UEFA have decided, no, we don't want that. It's absurd. Well, I'm guessing only after watching it happen in the Premier League. I think Jono is watching or in the comments there because that's Magnificent Reds. I think that's his new channel. Hope everyone, as we mentioned last week, has subscribed to that. Magnificent Reds _ 24/7. I think that will do us. We'll have to check on that one. If that's him watching, how you doing, boy? I hope that's all working out for you. So going through some of the results from the weekend. Obviously, we've touched on the United and the Liverpool game. Tottenham getting a nice easy win at Bournemouth, surprisingly.
Yeah, Bournemouth didn't really show up that much. Like it's just once again James Madison
just pulling the strings, doing.
Richarlison seems to can't score unless it's the League Cup, but now they're knocked out of that. Another trophy that Spurs have.
Another trophy that Spurs can't have and won't have in their empty trophy cabinet. And then the Arsenal Fulham game was quite a bit of a ding dong one.
It was once again. It was very similar to the United game where they suddenly go 1-0 down in the first minute. Yeah. Good goal by Andreas Pereira. He did not mean that.
He did not mean that. It was a beautiful finish. It looked really good, but there's no way he meant that.
There's no way he can claim that and say, I meant to do that.
Definitely not.
After watching Andreas Pereira for the United for years, there's no way.
You didn't know he had it in his locker. There's like he didn't mean that. He definitely didn't mean that.
And once again, I still question why Thomas Partey is continuing being a right back.
It's like they don't. Do they have anybody else? I'm sure they must have.
Last season they played Ben Wright as a right back and Gabriel. I don't know why they're benching Gabriel, moving Ben White to centre back, and playing Thomas Partey as a right back. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, what's the They've got the tall Japanese player as well. I thought he played right back for them, didn't he?
Yeah, well, Tomiyasu was banned for that, but like they still with Tomiyasu, they had Tomiyasu on the bench. But even with Tomiyasu, when he was not banned, they had him on the bench.
So obviously they see something in that right back position that Thomas
And they have
Partey.
Zinchenko, who was a left back, like on the bench too. Surely Zinchenko, you put him on the left and put like Kiwior on the right if you really.
It just seems sensible, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, and then they managed to get themselves 2-1 ahead, and
Mm.
Paulinho, as we mentioned earlier, even though they were down to 10 men, managed to sort of,
And Fulham could have easily won it with Traore. He had a beautiful chance at the end.
yeah. I mean, so Arsenal got lucky in a way,
And
just to
and
have.
Fulham were down 10 men and showed a better fight.
So it's almost like
Bassi,
yeah, Bassi got good goal.
which Marcus Silva was not happy. He said these new rules with these cards only benefit the top teams.
Oh, already,
That's what he said
already.
afterwards.
It's interesting. It's already starting a controversy, because I mean there was a lot of bit of rumblings around the card that happened in your game, because it was obviously you guys weren't doing so well, and then suddenly Forest get lots of cards, and it's like, I mean, it's early stages and it's going to look that way to people who want to put certain slant on things, that big teams are being favoured than the
Mm.
smaller teams and
It's the
whatever else.
fact that like one of his yellow cards was from time wasting, and then he did a foul. Like
It's
after.
like, yeah, I mean, and I mean, in all honesty, looking at the Liverpool game, Trent should not have been on the pitch,
Mm.
because he got the yellow card for throwing the ball away from. Okay, the ref made a mistake though, because he was
Yeah.
definitely
Sky did
fouled.
say that on like their show that like Trent probably should have got sent off.
He should have. I mean, he should have, by the letter of the law, because
Mm.
that second tackle on Gordon, or the arm across the shoulder, or where Anthony Gordon obviously exaggerated it, but that's a yellow card foul. Every time you see that, if you see somebody
Mm.
do that when it's
But
when
although
a counter
Liverpool
attack,
turning around did give us the revenge shush,
yes, the revenge
they
just
said
came back.
the assistant manager shush Klopp in the first bit, and then Klopp shushed him back. Even though
Yeah, it was.
that dynamic is weird to me, that Eddie Howe is sitting back on the chair most of the time and just letting the assistant do
Yeah,
most of the.
it's a bit of an odd one. It's an odd
It's the only
dynamic.
club where I've seen that dynamic happen. Usually, it's just the manager.
Usually the manager's up and shouting, but he's obviously the assistant has a bit more, you know, chutzpahs about him, who wants to maybe cause all the
And also,
aggro and make all.
with back to Arsenal, Kai Havertz is not living up to
What
the old price
what a,
tag.
where does I look at the Arsenal's team and I look at Havertz and you think, why? Where and how and why have you thought that he would be a benefit to that team? He doesn't seem to bring the same Arteta-esque sort of play to that. It's a bit of a weird one, and yeah, he's not working out for them at the moment, and they desperately need Gabriel Jesus back, don't they? I mean, they're getting
Yeah.
by, but without Jesus, they seem to be lacking a focal point.
And
And
and what it looks like from what I gathered from Arsenal fans, that Arteta keeps like changing his style each game
mm,
to like to a different experiment. And people keep saying like, "Oh, that's just because he's trying to see what works rotation." And I'm like, rotation happens when you start playing Europe games. Then you can rotate. I'm like, you
yeah,
don't rotate, change stuff in like the first 3 games of the season.
unless you don't know your yeah, well, I mean, the only person you can say is allowed to change their squad every game is probably Poch at
Man,
Chelsea, because their
they have so
squad
many players. And
constantly change.
Man City, but even Man City don't. They've not made us. The last game that they played was the first game that they actually made a substitute in the
Mhm.
first 3 games. That was against Sheffield United when they equal. It was
And
the
he
first time they
equalised.
made a substitute.
And yeah, so that just shows you that he wants to kind of get the first team, bedded in and whatever else. And it's odd that they're mixing and matching. Does he not know his, best 11, or is he trying to be over cautious or overthinking things? He knows he's got Europe coming. If he starts to rest players, or rotate them now, then when Champions League does come round, will they be fresher? It's a bit of an
Because
interesting one.
I think he's trying to do it like last year. He kind of blew out of steam near the end of the title race. I
Yeah,
think he's trying to manage that
try and
better
make
this
sure
season.
that
But
doesn't
like,
happen.
but you're doing it too early in the season, in my opinion,
It's
for
like
that kind of
first
stuff.
3 weeks you've got international breaks and stuff coming up. You can let people rest. Well, I know. I suppose most of the Arsenal team will be playing in their international breaks as well. I see Alex in the comments there. He's just mentioned about the referees. They've stopped giving warnings. I don't see. Why do I wonder why he says it wasn't a yellow card? I mean, yes, the foul, the arm across, I definitely think would have been a yellow card in any other point in time, if he hadn't just got a yellow card for throwing the ball away. And then I think what happened there is the referee realised that he'd probably made a mistake with not giving the free kick, because if he'd have given the free kick, then Trent could have just gone, hey, I was putting the ball back in on the pitch to take the free kick. And I think that's what he did at that game. And I think it was like he got such a shove, he just turned around and went, well, that's a free kick. I'll put the ball back on the pitch for the free kick to be taken. And then found out that, hey, hang on, it was a throw in and it wasn't a free kick. But yeah, the second one was definitely a yellow. I don't know. I think the referee got scared of doing it because of the noise, or the game was too big for him. It was a reason why he didn't make that call, yet then did make the call for Virgil's red card. Just seemed to me that the ref's brain was a little bit fried in those sort of 5 or 10 minutes.
But Liverpool turned that one around by actually turning to the striker on the bench.
Putting the number 9 on the pitch. Yeah.
And Endo has yet to play a game with 11 men.
He's doing okay as coming on as an emergency. This is not how it normally happens. Honest, we promise we do not sometimes play games with 11. Although this season,
his first 2 games both with 10 men. He's like, well,
gets thrown on to kind of shore up the ship when we're down to 10 men against Bournemouth, and then I think what was it?
Then he starts with 11, and then straight into the game he goes like, now I'm back 10.
10. Get used to this. This is how it works. Maybe it's a new thing that Klopp's trying out at training. Let's train with 10 men.
Where Klopp says he can tell the grandkids that he saw at the weekend about.
I had more time with the kids. And just going through that, so Palace, Brentford, a 1-1 draw. Surprisingly enough, both those teams cancelled each other out.
Apparently, they've drawn most of their games against.
I think every game of they've not 10 games in a row or something. So yeah, hardly surprising. I suppose when you looked at it, we should have worked out that was
the non-scoring game, and that's Wolves managed to actually score compared to the non-scoring Everton.
Non-scoring Everton managed to lose to the Wolves, who managed to find the back of the net in one way or another. And as we mentioned, that's definitely looking even worse now for Everton, isn't it?
It's why they brought in that Bento striker who did score in the cup, saved Everton from Doncaster.
That's right. He did manage to get something in the back of the net for Everton. But yeah, and then you look at Wolves, they had to throw on their 6'8" kind of giant striker. It seems like if that guy's fit, then Wolves may be reverting to a more direct approach of football, shall we say.
Then you have the shock with Brighton losing to West Ham.
Yes, a big result there. I did not expect that happening, but West Ham looked, fair play to them, they looked good in that game, and they looked well worth their 3-1
James
win.
Ward-Prowse. We're going to talk to it later, but doesn't get into the England team.
No, which is surprising. But, players who have got called up, who potentially are playing in a lesser position and a lesser league somehow. James Ward-Prowse in form, loving life in East London, it seems.
That's why I said, as we saw on the thing before, that one of the pundits claiming that De Zerbi is one of the best managers in the world. David Moyes is going like
one of the greatest managers in the world, right? Wasn't it? Apparently,
yeah.
It seemed a little excessive.
And then David Moyes goes like, "It's me.
I'm it. I'm him. I'm him. David Moyes is it. Maybe David Moyes is pushing for manager of the month."
Exactly. Then we have that almost turned into a shock: Man City versus Sheffield United. I predicted like a Sheffield United proved me wrong. They showed something in this game. I thought it was going to be like a 5-0.
I think I had it down as 4-0 or something similar. I thought this was just going to be a stroll in the park.
I was like, there's no way John Egan, the Irishman, is keeping Haaland out for that much.
And yeah,
but Haaland was frustrated most of the game. Haaland was getting very frustrated. Then he scored, and then a random fan jumped on him from the stands.
Which is what you need, doesn't it? That's the whole point. That's going to make the footballers feel really safe, and you get random people just throwing themselves out from the middle of Sheffield.
And then a beautiful equaliser from Bogle, and you think 85 minutes, you're like, oh, something's happening. This game's going to be. And then Rodri has to be Rodri.
Just do Rodri things, yeah. Just ruins the fun by just strolling onto a misplaced sort of Ben Foden touch, I think it was, wasn't it? And he just decided, I'm going to lash it in from here, and scores a screamer. It reminded me a little bit of the company goal from a couple of years back.
Which,
I
like
don't
I
know if you
said, was
remember.
one of the first substitutes that they actually made that they wanted to do in a game that wasn't
Yeah.
for an injury
Mm.
into a thing. Is Phil Foden on gets an assist for their winner.
Yeah, it will go down as an assist, even though I think he basically just
Mm.
miscontrolled it and it rolled to
And Man
Rodri.
City are, surprise, surprise, the only perfect team after 3 games.
It's hardly surprising, but as you say, it's odd that there's only one team that's done it. I mean, but it's
West Ham
West
were
Ham are right
top
in
for a
there, aren't they?
day. They were
Yep,
top for a day.
top for a day. They've got to be loving life at the moment. And we were saying Brighton were loving life, but West Ham is, looking good. They don't seem to be struggling too much in terms of, they
They
haven't
struggled
really,
in they struggled in the first game, but since then they found their form against Chelsea and
yeah,
Brighton. Two big results.
two big results for them. So yeah, they're getting ready for their
Speak,
champ.
speaking of Chelsea, they did, our friend from last week. He did manage to celebrate a win.
It did, but it was in the cup.
They had Luton as well. They
They did.
beat
Oh, of course
Luton
they
three
did. They
0
did beat. I mean, but I think,
Raheem Sterling scored twice. Jan
yeah,
Jackson finally got a goal
finally got a goal.
for my fantasy team. Needed
So
that.
needed that to get going, and I wonder if it does get him started, potentially. I think we said
Yeah,
that we need
poor
those.
Luton has not had the greatest of starts to
No, but
the
they,
league fixtures.
they were up against it with the fixture list, weren't they? Especially not having that home game at Burnley, as we said, because it's been postponed. They a couple of
Mm.
nasty away
But now they
games
have a
where,
home game against West Ham next week.
yeah. So that's not even helping them much, is it? It's like you finally get back to Kenilworth Road and end up with West Ham, who are flying high on a Friday night. That's going to be it's going to be rocking. It's going to be an amazing, event for Luton, I think. But it will
Yeah,
be,
Chelsea finally found themselves in the top half of the table for the first time since December last year.
yeah. Go figure that one. I mean, it might not last, but they're gonna take it while they're there. Hey, my man Italy Jets just jumped into the comments there. One of the Let's Talk Sports guys from over in the States. He's loving life at the moment. West Ham Jets fan. He's everything's turning up rosy for Gino at the moment. So good to see you, man. What? And then we're into the final sort of games, final results. We got Burnley, Aston Villa, the Battle of the Clarets, and Villa looked pretty safe in that game. They looked comfortable all the way through.
Yeah, they let Matty Cash score twice, and then you think, oh, it's walking. But then Burnley did get back into that with one goal. You think maybe there's something, and
Maybe.
then 20 minutes later, I see it goes 3-1. There was nothing in it.
Yeah, it's like what happened there. They just decided to shut it all down. Yeah,
And Diaby
Villa.
once again seems like a good signing for Villa.
Yeah, and he picked up another signing this week, didn't they? An ex-Barcelona defender, to ideally for them replacing Tyrone Mings, but whether or not he's a like-for-like
And
replacement because he's not been on
yeah.
great form for
And
the
Villa are
past few
continuing
years.
their form in Europe at the moment. They're beating Hibernian 8-0 on aggregate.
Oosh, the Hibs are getting smashed, are they? So yeah,
Mm.
maybe Jono's, fourth place for Villa hasn't gone out the window, even though they did take that sort of absolute tanking in the first week. Maybe they just found their feet and it is on because
Oh, they have
as we,
Liverpool at Anfield next.
well, maybe we'll have to revisit that after that week and see just how it all shakes out. I suppose that's the thing, right? We've got another two game weeks before the international break. I think it is, isn't it?
No, I think it's just this one, and then next week's
Just one, and
the
then it's the
yeah.
international break. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where the shakeout is 3 or 4 games in. Obviously, will City still be 100%? Will there be any gap at the top? I mean, it's early days, but you don't want City to be sitting there, 4 from 4 or 5 from 5, whatever it is, with nobody else anywhere within sort of touching
Mm.
distance. That's already going to be setting hearts racing. Speaking of setting hearts racing, so obviously from an England perspective, I know this is probably not going to be high on your list of fun things to talk about, but we're going to
No,
have to bring it in.
listen. I am realistic with the squad. See, I don't want England to lose, so the squad is nothing for me. But I still criticize it.
So just bring it up and just have a look at the England squad, who was just mentioned. Southgate pulled that together this afternoon, I think it was. Big surprise for me that Henderson was called back in after moving out to Saudi Arabia. Also, Calvin Phillips is yet again somehow not playing any competitive football, but is in our
Harry
midfield.
Maguire has not kicked a single ball.
Yep, and he's in. Luke Shaw's injured, isn't he? And he's in. Um, what? Where is, as we said, where's James
That's
Ward-Prowse?
I don't think that's the team. That's an old image.
Is that an old image I've managed to pull
Yeah,
up? Might be.
yeah.
Well, there
I
you go.
think because I remember Ketia was on the
Maybe
app.
upload. There you go. That's what happens when you do a quick Google search just before jumping on. But who can find it?
I'll post the out in a private thing there. You can because I know
Yes.
Nick Pope is not in the squad,
I
so
saw.
that's
I
why.
saw the one. I thought. There you go. That's much
Mm,
better, isn't it? Where's it gone? Let's just pull that up and talk about it. Yeah, because obviously Nick Pope. Yeah, that's a pretty obvious one that's not going to be in there.
and
Bear with
Trent
me.
Alexander-Arnold's listed as a midfielder.
Which makes kind of sense. That's where he's been playing. So yeah, Johnson, Pickford, and Ramsdale. I suppose Pickford's. He actually had a pretty good game for Everton,
Pickford is still going to play regardless.
regardless of anybody else in that ones. But he had a pretty good game the other day. I saw some amazing stops in that game, even though it's surprising when you
Tomori
consider that
finally gets a game at centre back, maybe.
maybe he's finally realised that maybe the furore coming out of Italy is something that you have to look at.
And
But yeah,
Colwill, very good for Brighton last year, Chelsea this year.
Chelsea this year, yeah, he's coming in. Conor Gallagher Sunday. He's been knocking around, and I'm quite happy to see Eze get a call up as well for Crystal Palace. I think that'll be quite nice to kind of
Yep.
show that you play well and you get in. Although, as we just mentioned, James Ward-Prowse isn't there, so that's a bit of an odd one to me because you would have thought with Jordan Henderson playing Sunday League
Although
football out in Saudi Arabia.
his logic with Jordan Henderson and Maguire is that we need experience, and I'm basing it off the end of last year rather than the beginning of this year.
Or is it just the old boys' club? Maguire.
I mean, it's definitely his
Kane.
favorites, but he's justifying by saying I based it off the end of last year rather than the beginning of this year. But if you did that, then Harry Maguire still doesn't get into the team because he didn't play at the end of last year either.
Yeah, well, he wasn't even there, so that's an odd one, and it'll be interesting to see. But I think it is only in the nicest. It is Ukraine. It should be okay.
James
But
Madison, pretty good, so he'd be well justified. And Ketty has been decent for Arsenal, so
Saka's been good. Callum Wilson's been not really
Calvin
firing up.
Phillips, I don't know if he can even play football anymore these days.
I don't think. Well, we certainly haven't seen him in a competitive game in the City shirt. So I mean, he must be doing something right somewhere.
Will Jordan Henderson even like the English weather anymore? He's been
Will it be too cold? He comes back and plays Ukraine and Scotland. I mean, it's going to be
even Jude Bellingham. It's not the sunniest Spain.
It'll be interesting to see how they all kind of come together.
And will Trent play as a midfielder? We'll find out.
We'll find out when we get. I can imagine he'll probably not. I don't think he'll play him there against Ukraine because that's the one that counts. I think that's an actual qualifier, and then maybe he'll give an experiment against Scotland as the heritage game or whatever it is they're classing that as and giving that the big build up for. I think he might do it then because then that's the chance then to kind of try things out.
You see, Wombo in the comments there. I predicted in my predictor the first one the Chelsea to finish 5th.
It was. I think I had them just at 5th as well. I think I had. Well, no, did I have them 4th? I think I had them as 4th.
You might have 4th. Like we were arguing that like it's close between the.
Yeah, I think Chelsea, considering they're just buying everybody, they should get the squad is definitely Champions League, qualifying level, but they just got to work out what their best team is because I think at the moment they just
they're still signing people. They're signing
people. They're still going out and buying people. So until they can work that out, I don't think you can say they're in a position to challenge. But they're definitely going to be there and thereabouts. And as we said at the beginning, I think 4th, 5th, 6th, they're going to be 1, 2, 3 points between those sort of positions, and it could go, toss of a coin on which way they go. So that's where we had them. I like your confidence in your team there. I don't think even Matty our regular who popped in last week thinks that Chelsea are going to win it. But stranger things have happened. But I think their squad, until they gel, I think that's a bit of a push to go from where they were to winning the league. They're not a Leicester. There's no fairy tale going on at Stamford Bridge there. And then the other big news of the day, the Champions League draw came out just a couple of hours ago before we jumped on here, and there are some stinkers in there for some English teams.
There is some Europa League, Conference League level groups in the Champions League. I tell you.
Yeah, there's some nastiness going on there. I'm not sure.
Mainly, I'm going to be honest. Man City's group is the Europa League level.
It does really look like Man City are going to be able to probably rest a few players as they go through.
That looks like a Europa League group to me. Man City's one apart from City.
Yeah.
Same with Barca's in a way, apart from Porto and.
Porto, yes, and Shakhtar Donetsk. But yeah, you think Shakhtar Donetsk, you think Europa League. Antwerp again.
Well, Antwerp, this is their first Champions League. I don't think they're making it out of the group.
No, they don't think so. Feyenoord, Atletico, Lazio, Celtic's away form's just going to.
You would think Atletico Madrid should get out of that.
Yeah.
And then it's
probably with Lazio.
It's a shootout for second and third. Lazio sometimes don't do good, sometimes do. It's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, Group A, I think United and Bayern are obviously clear favourites to come through that one.
I deep down, I don't see many English clubs beating Bayern to top of the group.
No, definitely not. I think that's definitely going to be Bayern, and then you guys for second. Group B, I think it's probably as it stands, right? Arsenal, Sevilla, Arsenal.
Although Sevilla may throw a game to get into the Europa League and get the trophy that they want.
Just to keep their trophy. Although, didn't Sevilla knock Arsenal out of Europe last season as well? So there's a bit of history and a bit of aggro there. And so that might spice some of those.
They knocked out United out of Europe.
That's right.
PSV played Arsenal in the Europa League group last year and beat them at home.
So there is a little bit there.
And then Lens came second in the French league.
Yeah, but by how far?
They actually only lost the league to PSG by a point.
Oh,
so last year they competed.
Wow, I mean, maybe we're disrespecting.
Well, that's because PSG kind of blew the last 3 games of their season, but it could have been
a lot more. Group C looks pretty straightforward for Real
Madrid, Napoli. Yeah.
Can't really see anything else there. Group D.
Well, Union Berlin have Bonucci now, so beefed up the defense for.
Beefed up the defense a little bit for a fight there, but I still can't see them being anywhere near the.
Another one, you would think Inter should get out of the Group D. And probably Benfica or Salzburg.
Yeah, maybe it's a coin flip for second in that one, but you think Inter should.
Real Sociedad is an added interesting factor because they can
turn up and turn
Then we'll go for the group of death. Group F. F's in the chat for them.
F. I bet every Newcastle fan was using the letter F a lot when they were reading out this one. This is a hideous group for them.
Yeah, F. I agree with you, Wambo. F is not very predictable because I've seen Newcastle at their best and I've seen Newcastle at their worst. So
who knows? I mean, the home games at St James are going to be absolutely heaving and rocking. But I mean, what a baptism of fire, if you like. Welcome to European football, Newcastle United. Here's the ultimate group of death. I mean, PSG, Borussia Dortmund, Inter Milan. I think 3 of those. I think all 3 of them have been in the Champions League final in the last 10, 15 years.
Always usually get out of the group, so I can't see PSG not.
Can't see them not getting out of the group. I mean, who knows? Which PSG is going to be left.
Usually get out of the group too, so that's a.
Yeah, and Milan are always perennial.
And Milan were semi-finalists last year.
Yeah, quarterfinalists, semi-finalists. They're always there and thereabouts. So Newcastle really are up. They have to be up for that. And as we mentioned in one of our earlier shows, will their eyes now turn to this? Because we mentioned that when Europe comes around, they may fall off, they may suffer, they may kind of lose.
Wambo thinks Dortmund and Newcastle or Milan and Dortmund. He doesn't have PSG making it out.
You think PSG were the ones that will go down? Will they go out? Or will they drop into the Europa League? Because third drops into the Europa League, doesn't it? with these guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
they go into the playoff, like the playoff round of the
they are,
Europa League, which
yeah. So they
essentially was the round of 32, but they decided to call it a playoff.
yeah, well, because it's a bit fancier and it sounds like they'll
Yeah,
sell more tickets. Yeah, and then Group H, yeah, I think we say Barcelona, Porto are straight through on that one. But I
Celtic and
feel for
Metz is
Newcastle.
rather the intro, but they haven't played because they have to for the whole situation at Ukraine. Don't know where their heads.
Where are they playing? At Kazakhstan or somewhere? They're not at home
And
or
I think
anything,
they're
are they?
playing like Hamburg or something.
It makes no sense, but its situation
Mm.
dictates what's happening there. So yeah, an interesting group. As you say, not many. Maybe Arsenal, United, or through that. I can't see Newcastle getting through that. City will obviously stroll through their group, but then yeah, that's going to be a lot. I feel for Celtic.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably do well at home, but as per Celtic, they travel away and will never get an away point.
Mm. Sadly I don't think Celtic are getting out of the. I like Celtic, but I don't think
I don't think they've got it to get out past those three.
it'll come down between them and Feyenoord for Europa League. I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at that one. Yeah, Atletico and Lazio, and then the other two battling for that Europa League spot. So,
Same
yeah,
with it'd be interesting to see who out of Group F gets Europa League because that's who gets
yeah,
grouped.
yeah. Well, I wonder if Wambo has PSG going to the Europa, or if he has PSG losing that and going fourth.
Who knows?
Imagine, that would be a shock, wouldn't it? Milan, Dortmund go through, Newcastle go to the Europa, and then PSG
That'd be Mbappe instantly out the door
instantly
again.
just on a flight to Saudi Arabia before the game is even finished. That's what I would expect to happen there. So that's the updates, and that's where we are with the Champions League.
Tomorrow we have the big one for
Big one.
Gary, Europa League best. As someone
The
who's been
best
in
of
it
the
last
best.
year, the best song. It has the best intro song.
Oh no, it doesn't. Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? It's a hideous one.
You after hearing it so much, you just get to think it's a banger.
When you hear it every Thursday, you won't be like, "Yeah, I get used
The
to this."
Europa League final is in Dublin.
Oh, there you go.
Lovely.
It could be a trip to Dublin then. Dublin will turn red if Liverpool manage to get there. That would be an insane day out. So that's where
Especially
we
since
are.
there's a lot of Liverpool fans in Dublin.
Yeah, there's a lot of Irish contingent. Yeah, definitely. That might be an interesting one to book now, just in case. But it's a long way away.
Yep, it's quite a few months of
slogging
Thursday,
up and down.
Sunday for Liverpool.
Thursday, Sunday games, Thursday, Sundays, Thursday, Mondays. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see just how much travel is going to be involved, because that's always the fun with the Europa League.
The Europa League when you always get like teams from like Cyprus and stuff.
Cyprus, and then you end up with one like Far Eastern sort of Russia or somewhere, or one of those, in the Urals, and you're like, how do you get from there to there and back again?
You have to look at I have a flight to Monaco, then I have a flight to somewhere else.
3 hops on a flight to get there, and you're like, well, that's going to make interesting reading when it comes down to the Sunday game. Who's going to actually do you leave your first team back here and then go back? Because I know there was talk.
I will mention the Carabao Cup third round also had a draw this week.
Oh yes, it did.
Wednesday, it gave us some tasty ties.
Which ones have caught your eye then?
Well, the main one is Newcastle at home to Man City.
Ooh, that's
third round.
Wow, I missed that one, to be honest.
Well, that was the last draw that happened. It was the last one that came out.
When are they playing? Because does that
26th of September. Is that weekend?
Ooh.
That week.
And that's when then the Champions League comes the week after, doesn't it? I'd have to work that one out. But yeah, there's some good ties in there. I feel it would have been nice for Sutton to get a bigger tie, to be honest. After getting into this stage, it would have been nice.
Sutton, the lowest team left in the competition,
and yeah, they've ended
up. We get the mighty Port Vale.
It's like, oh come on! They could have been nicer with that sort of draw.
Salford City get rewarded with Premier League Burnley for beating Leeds.
I could see them turning him over. You never know.
Gary Neville has probably calmed down from going on the piss from beating Leeds.
Maybe he's not been on Sky Sports, so maybe he's still on that.
Luton barely got by Gillingham, but they got by and they play Exeter City. Ipswich play Wolves.
Should be an interesting game. I think,
Liverpool got Leicester City, an old Premier League title, that's now the Premier League
yeah,
Championship.
it should be Championship level Leicester. They don't seem to be coming back up too soon either, so that might be an interesting one for. I think did Blackburn put 8?
Man United Palace.
That'd be a good game.
It's
Depending on who they put. I mean, Chelsea Brighton should be a
yeah.
stonker if they actually put a proper team out.
Which was interesting about United Palace is we also play Palace in the league that weekend.
Oh, it's one of those double headers things
Yeah.
that happen. Oh, that should be interesting.
Which
Yeah.
means and Dean Henderson now at Palace, a bit of a story there.
Yeah, has he gone to Palace on loan, or has he gone to Palace?
No, he's gone to Palace 20 million permanent.
Oh, so he's not. He won't be held back from
No,
playing against
he
his
will
parent
not be
club.
playing.
Oh, no, a bit of aggro there. He might have a chip on his shoulder because he certainly feels like he's
A
hard done by
London
United.
game between Brentford and Arsenal as well.
So there's a
And that
couple
one,
of tasty
and
ties there.
Villa Everton, which Everton can still need to find a way to score many goals.
Score many goals. Yeah, I mean, you could say that is a old Premier League tie, but I don't think if that was drawn next year, you would be able to say that the way Everton are heading. Some tasty ties there. That should be an interesting one.
Alamba has given his predictions. He has Arsenal in 5th.
Oh, so that's his top 5, is it? City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United, and Arsenal.
Well, we wanted the first week. We wanted our bold takes, and that's a bold take. Arsenal in 5th.
Arsenal to drop out of the Champions League. I mean, it's a bold take, but as we've said, said about Newcastle that maybe getting sidetracked by those extra European games may impact them. But it's a bold take. We'll keep it, Wamba. It'll go on the list. We'll come back.
With a young team, can they cope with the?
Can they cope with the pressure? Can they cope with the extra travel? Can they cope with all those extra games?
The tougher games, because the Europa League you can get by with playing like a weaker team in the Europa League.
Yeah, I mean, City can get by playing a weaker team in their
Europa
League.
But in the Champions League, usually you can't get by
usually, but yeah,
especially in United's case, when you got to play Bayern Munich, you can't really play the big team against Bayern Munich.
Yeah, you can't put the kids out for that one, can you? You've got to put your main team out for that one. Excellent. So that's where we are. Shall we have a look ahead at next week?
Yeah, we shall.
So looking ahead at next week in the fantasy football, who have you got as your obvious starter? I mean, I'm guessing you had Haaland as your captain for the last week.
Yeah, I've learned to not listen to me.
Not listen to yourself when you say who should be captain. Although saying that, I went for my left field pick to be captain last week, and it didn't work out for me either at Brentford. So,
based on the fixtures, I would say put in a West Ham player. Probably James Ward-Prowse. He's been getting
if you can get him in your team,
your team. Maybe get a Chelsea player because I do play Forest, and Forest don't really have a great away record, as we saw last week. United, they went 2-0 up and blew it. They're not really the best away, and they're away at Stamford Bridge. So
Sterling seems to be on form as well, so he would probably be a good shout if you've got him in your team.
All the other games, it's not really recommended with some of them because, I wouldn't. Brighton is a tough one because they play Newcastle. It's kind of hard to.
Tougher, isn't it? Yeah.
Same with Liverpool, Villa. Chances are, if you put a Liverpool player in, they might be the one to get the red card this weekend. So it's kind of risky.
You're looking at that thinking, where do you pick a defender, right? You're looking at West Ham, Everton, Sheffield United should probably be a ball draw. So if you've got any of those defenders, you should get a clean sheet there.
And you might get a clean sheet for Tottenham, Burnley. Tottenham might.
Tottenham should.
Palace and Wolves is kind of a toss of the coin, and I don't predict clean sheets in Arsenal, Man United, so I wouldn't play button too many of those.
No, definitely. I see goals in all of those. So yeah, when you're looking for clean sheets, you're going to be struggling there. But yeah,
although Luton, if you want to pick them, they've signed Tengen Mengi, United youngster, on for a permanent deal just now.
Is he? Well, he'll be thrown straight into the Lions' den on Friday. I wonder. Might be a bit of a quick turnaround for him to get in the squad. So yeah, there we go. So looking ahead to City, Fulham. Obviously, Haaland's going to be most people's pick for captain there. He should probably fill his boots there after being
Mm.
frustrated. I should imagine that.
Fulham may have be without Paulinho, which will affect them.
Yeah, will he play even if he's not sold? Will they kind of ask him to sit it down just because if he's unsettled? Because you've seen that happen with other players, haven't you? You know, transfers,
Mm.
whatever. But the transfer deadline is tonight, right? No,
No,
tomorrow.
it's tomorrow. Tomorrow
Tomorrow.
at 11.
Yeah, so that's when all the slamming of doors and the yellow ties come out on Sky Sports in this country, and we'll all be avidly
Well, I'm
watching
like,
that
Steve,
ticker.
Steve, you're outside Stamford Bridge. Anything happening?
Nope,
Everything, Steve. Everything.
everything's happened.
Everything's
Everything,
decided.
everybody,
About 50 players have shown up. Steve.
they've all just turned up en masse. They don't know if they're going to sign. They don't know, but they're just trying their luck. Basically, anyone. But Peter Odemwingie will probably turn up at Stamford Bridge in his car, driving.
And United's just going to be out all day. Is Amrabat there yet? They're still negotiating.
Where's Amrabat? I don't know. He's gone to Liverpool.
No, that's Ryan Gravenberch.
That's Gravenberch.
John is outside Old Trafford waiting for Ryan Gravenberch in his dream, and he's on a flight to
Right,
Merseyside in the
gone the other
morning.
way, mate. In the morning, he's going in the morning. He's diverted. It's broken another dream of yours. No Kane, now no Gravenberch. What's left for John Oden before the end of the transfer deadline?
We're gonna have to get it next week. John Lowe returns. We'll get his new dream.
Yeah, they'll have to come up with a new one now. It'll be United storm to the Champions League final.
Well, like as John has said in there, he wants Newcastle United fight.
Qatar United in a Champions League final. I mean,
Saudi versus Qatar is what John wants in the final.
Wow, that's it. Saudi versus Qatar. It could be. I mean, what's the news on the potential Glaziers selling out?
There's not much any news at the. I did come very silent as in with the NDAs. I know Sheikh Jazim has decided to not speak about it in public or the true people anymore because he doesn't want to. Like in the beginning, he made a statement about the Glaziers being bad out, and he wants to, and the Glazers told him off for it. So, and he's now doesn't want to put his foot in it before, in case he wins it. Doesn't want to put any bad, but stop him winning it. So he's just gonna
keep saying nothing,
keep quiet, and just talk in the background to the groups involved.
Interesting. So it sounds like it's moving in the background, and it could come to some sort of fruition, which I'm guessing for you guys would be a great step forward because you certainly will fill the coffers.
As much as that's interesting one, Bo, Al Nassr versus Inter Miami, I don't think it happened in the Champions League final.
Could be an interesting one. Maybe not this year or not for the next couple of years. Although we did mention Saudis are pushing for a seat at the table in the Champions League, but Inter Miami, that could be. You might be looking
John,
at
I wonder who made that trailer for the fans. We'll never know.
We'll never know. So it's a lovely, sexy trailer, but I mean, whoever
it just showed up. We don't know.
It just appeared on the banners, and we're just using it. So there we boys, and that's we've run through all of the things we were going to talk about. Unfortunately, we didn't have a VAR review this week. Alec unfortunately had no time to put one together, which is probably a good thing because we could have got really hung up on all of the niggles of the red cards and which ones were and which ones weren't. I know we talked a couple of the flashpoints already.
A lot of stuff are happening on deadline day. A
lot of stuff.
Regulon is coming to United for a loan.
And it's all moving.
It's all about the injury crisis of the left back, but the United have put a clause in there that we can cancel it in January if our left backs come fit again.
Oof. I wonder that. I'm not sure how that will go down too well with Daniel Levy. He tends to be a bit more stringent.
That's why it broke down with Cucurella that we were going for because Chelsea refused to have that clause in there, but Spurs have supposedly are okay with that clause.
That's interesting.
Because they think maybe if he does all right and we cancel it anyway, they can then sell him in January.
Because he's done well and somebody's actually been in a shop window, yeah.
Whereas with Chelsea, they didn't want that in, and then they played him in the Carabao Cup, so we just annoyed us, so we cancelled the deal with Chelsea, and then
interesting.
And so United are going to announce the keeper Altay Bayinir from Turkey tomorrow.
You need another one.
It's to replace Dean Henderson. He's just I don't know who's the second out of him and Tom Heaton. I don't know who's the second choice and who's the third choice.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
It'd be kind of bad on
Goalkeeper
Tom Heaton that we refused his loan. We refused his move to Luton to keep him just so he could be third choice. Would kind of be a bad out on
yeah.
that.
So yeah, that would another Dean Henderson sort of moment brewing there by the sounds of it. Who you can't go out. We won't let you go and play football, but we'll then go and sign another keeper and put them ahead of you.
Because I don't know what's the point in having three goalkeepers because the most part does the third choice really do anything but just put out the codes.
Put out the
How
codes,
about
spray the gloves,
sure
maybe.
3 years ago we had Lee Grant as a third choice. He never played it.
You
I think
never
he
kicked the
played.
ball. I mean, didn't
I
hang
think
on.
he played. I think he played like 10 minutes in a cup game just because of
Yeah.
it.
Didn't
Of the sending off.
Ben Foster won a Premier League medal by being City's third choice keeper or something, didn't he?
I mean, you get a medal, but like you just sit there, you do nothing.
Just sit there and warm a seat, and if you're lucky, you might get a cup game or whatever else.
And like I said with Lee Grant, he was he got 10 minutes because of a red card at one point. He just came on.
It was like, can't remember how to kick a ball, but here I am. It'll be interesting to see, as you say, deadline day approaches tomorrow. Who does the panic
Everton
buy?
want to do more deals, but John Dyche literally said after beating Doncaster, he has no idea if he's getting transfers or not.
You'd like to. It's an interesting one. We're moving forward, or we're doing lots of things are in the irons in the fire and all that lot. And you look at it, and you
Yes,
think,
if there's anything close, he says, I have no idea if I'm going to get. I want to, but I have no idea.
that's
John Dyche is a very honest man. Because
he
I have
doesn't
no
mince
idea.
his words on many of his press conferences, does he? He's quite straightforward, which is why I hope that he stays in the Premier League, just maybe not managing Everton.
I still think Sheffield United may need more players, but I don't think they're going. I know Forest are trying to get a few players on because they kind of been lackluster. They didn't go with their 20 players, but they're trying on deadline day to at least get
At least
5.
get a few more in. Yeah, but I think Forest were hoping that Johnson would go for a big money fee, wouldn't he? And that seems to have broken down. So I think they were thinking they were going to get. I think there was 50 million being bandied around. So if that had come in, they might have been able to go and get 4 or 5 for that. I think Wolves desperately need to get out and find free agents or loans or something.
And with United, we were going to just try to get money for Jose Amrabat, and then we pretty much have an injury crisis happening at the moment. So it's made Ten Hag have to buy a fullback on loan.
It's always a problem, isn't it?
Which means that we're also trying to get Amrabat on loan with I think we're going to get him on loan with an obligation to buy.
Yeah.
I think the only reason Florentino will accept it is if we obligation that we will have to pay like 20 million next year.
Yeah, I don't think they'll go for it with a option. I think it'll have to be an obligation, which seems fair because you've been sniffing around him, shall we say?
Because we turned his head the entire season, and he's literally turned down like other clubs like Forest and Fulham have made big bids for Amrabat, which Florentine accepted, but Amrabat is instantly rejected every single deal because he's like, United are still in for me.
Yeah,
so we kind of have to have an obligation in there, otherwise we just completely messed around Florentina's entire transfer.
Yeah, and then that would not sit down too well, would it? And then it doesn't paint you in the best light going forward for anybody else who you want to have negotiations with. Ronan, good stuff. It's been a great show again, Ronan, and I know Jono's back next week with us.
We can say who next week. We can definitively talk about who won the transfer window. We'll bring up a list of everyone.
The ins and outs and whoever. Yeah, it would definitely be an interesting one to kind of review who did what and, as you say, who won the window. I know we talked about it. And who
generally do we reckon has genuinely improved with the signings that they have been?
Yeah, I wonder if anyone is going to get anywhere close to Aston Villa. Although Brighton have just made a couple of interesting signings to replace their.
Yeah, Ansu Fati is one that I didn't expect.
That was a shocker. Yeah, going to Barcelona and going on loan to Brighton. What was that?
Big signing for the Europa League. That, to be fair,
huge signing to be sitting in there.
So now,
yeah. John is saying he's looking forward to be back next Thursday. Yep, should be a good one. And saying
after his podcast that we'll shout out on Sunday,
we will shout out episode. So yeah, as Jono's in there, Jono's a regular host on this show. He's started up he's divesting his time, shall we say, and he's got a new show on a podcast going out on Sundays, Magnificent Reds. _247. I hope I got that right. Ronan, remind me.
Yeah,
Sounds about right, doesn't it? So
yeah.
do please go and find him on Twitter. Go and find him on YouTube. He's out there doing a
It
Man
is.
United.
Yeah, I was gonna say I will warn you. It is a United one. If anyone isn't a United fan, you could still tune in to make fun of United for certain things or comment that we're going to get beaten by Bayern Munich by a lot.
I mean, I should imagine that was quite an interesting show for the first 5 minutes against Forest, but
Mm.
feel free to jump in and give Jono some abuse or some support, depending on your affiliation. And we look forward
It's
to
it's
you.
how I convinced a Chelsea fan last week on our show, regular Chelsea, that he can go and just make fun of United if he wants.
It sounded like a plan, but I'm not sure if Matty did it. But I might just
I
pop
don't
in
know.
and do that.
It's how I can sell it to. You got to sell it to everyone, even
Yeah. Go
somehow.
in it, go in and abuse a bunch of Man United fans. What more could you ask for? Ronan, it's been a great chat. Appreciate your time again. It's always flies by this time here when we start talking about stuff like that. If you are in a chat, thanks for joining, Wambo. Appreciate all your comments in there. And Alec, I know you jumped in and out. That was great. Anybody else who's kind of sitting there watching, please make sure you do hit that button underneath. Subscribe to the Let's Talk Sports show. Hit like, share it around on Twitter for us. We're doing our best we can to keep Let's Talk Sport running whilst Dan's struggling with his health. So we love you, Dan. I hope you're doing all right. I hope you're out there watching. We'll hopefully get
You
you
have
back
all our
soon.
best wishes.
And we will sort out a show for next week to where, as you say, we maybe a review of who wins the
Transfer window.
transfer
We'll
window.
we'll have a quick rundown on the Europa League. See where Liverpool are flying around the world.
How many miles Liverpool are going to be flying for the
And
Europa League?
Brighton
Yes, and
and West
Brighton.
Ham too. West Ham are
Well,
in
yeah,
there.
because they're in Europa
Yeah.
after winning the conference, aren't they?
Mm.
It should be an interesting one. And then obviously we'll have a look forward to maybe the international break and some of the reviews of some of the maybe shocks this week. Definitely probably going to need Alec for the red card VAR review, I
And
think.
we can have a preview of the qualifiers. See if anyone's having
Anyone
some
cares.
tough ones.
Anyone cares. Brilliant. Ronan, it's
Anyone
been a great
cares,
laugh.
but we'll have a look anyway.
We'll have a look anyway. Who knows? But it's worth having a look. It's been great, Ronan. Appreciate your time.
Yep,
Thanks, man.
as always.
As always, this has been fun. This has been Let's Talk Sport. Thanks for watching.